Hey, you know how much I love natural light, but what I miss in a studio shoot is the creativity that comes from being able to shape, transform or color the light the way you want it. Today that's what we're going to do, back to the studio to put some color in our lives. Except we don't have a studio. We don't have studio lights or professional flashes or a background or... The third thing to get, a background. Of course, even without having a photo studio room, you can find on the internet really affordable folding backgrounds. But today we are going to stay in a very DIY spirit and make do with what we have at home. And I have nothing, but I still have some walls, and a white one like this will do perfectly well. Second thing, a camera. Got it. Today I'm shooting with the 28-75mm and I'm thinking of staying around the longest focal length. We'll see why later. Third important item, we need a model.
Eh Mano, tu te fais un petit shooting là?
Non, j'ai un nouvel habitant sur mon île et je dois m'occuper de lui, je l'aime pas.
Tu m'obliges à t'embêter jusqu'à ce que tu dises oui? Tu veux shooter? 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 Tu veux shooter?
C'est bon, elle est d'accord. Last little detail, lighting, of course. We are not going to use big pro lights and jello, what we will do in a studio, since we don't have any of that, we don't have the space, and we don't have the budget. What we're going to test today is what kind of result we can get with small RGB lights like this one. Do you remember the video 10 photo eyes this to do at home? People at Godox like it and they send me 3 little lights like this one, the R1 I think it's called, to see if I could get some nice thing with it.
Challenge accepted.
So it's not a sponsorship, they didn't ask me for anything in exchange, but keep in mind that they gave them to me for free. So let's go for the first try. In natural light, you work with imposed lighting condition. It is up to you to adapt the parameters of your camera and, if possible, the position of the model in relation to the source. In a studio, you will have to manage the light. You will be able to control its intensity, its distance from the subject, its diffusion, and in our case, its color. We will first try to minimize any light source that could interfere with the artificial lights used, by shooting in a closed room if possible, or in my case here by closing the shutters to avoid the sun. Yeah, I know, I still don't have a curtain, that would have been cool. We will start with just 2 lights and see what we can get. Here, the first image, we have a correct result. However, we will have to pay attention to the distance of the lights or maybe increase their brightness a little bit. In this kind of situation, you also have to be extremely careful when focusing. Here it was made on the hair strand and not on the eye. For this kind of case, on my Sony, I'm a big fan of the DMF mode, which allows you to use the autofocus, but lets you access the focus ring of your lens to make micro adjustments. It's much better in this picture, and I must admit I like this one a lot. On the one hand by the poetry of a portrait with closed eyes, but also by the colors that blend well with each other, here only with a very cold and a very warm temperature. In this picture I tried different color combinations, with more or less success. Keep in mind that there are many ways to play on the color harmony, and it is not an obligation to restrict yourself only with their complementarity. Here we have 3 modes. By color, you can change the temperature from warm to cold. The color mode, you can change all the hues and the saturation of the light. That's what we're going to do today. Finally, you have a VFX mode that must be really nice to use in video to create atmospheres like...
Detective Shelby, where's the victim? You know the story of the Lady of the Lake? She's been seen around. She screams before she kills. No, please, no flash, no pictures, please.
And I'm not going to go into more details, sorry if that's what you expected, but I don't do material reviews on my channel. I'm not going to get into the technical capabilities of this thing. And there are other brands that offer RGB lights. I'm not going to make comparisons to tell who's the best. I leave that to other, or you can do your own research. I'm not going to explain to you how it works either, you just have to read the manual. Yeah, I know, I'm the only one doing that. But it's just 5 little pages, plus everything is already written on it. Yeah, you're going to be fine. Now my channel talks about the creative process. What interesting stuff can we do, creatively speaking, with that kind of product? 3 is a good number for fun. The trick is to figure out how to mix the 3 sources. The advantage of the air ones is that they are magnetic and can stick to quite a lot of surfaces. For example, standard light stands, you just have to hold them with the clip as the surface is cylindrical. For other surfaces, the light comes with few Velcro pieces, but you have to unstick it on the shell. It would have been better to have a metallic side and the other sticker. And finally, there's also a standard threading that allows you to fix it on any quick release plate. Here I did it on my monopod so I could move the light easily around Manoe. And it's also pretty cool as a magician stick.
You shadow!
The result is starting to be interesting. I find that the mix of the three colors work well, and the pose also with the hand on the chest. It works even better here. I like this picture very much, with the gaze to the side. In this case I recreated the warm and cold opposition on the side of the face and added a third color touch by lining from below. Her untied hair also works very well and gives volume to the image.
So I was saying I don't make reviews and I don't do unboxing videos. Seriously, do you really want to see me open a box? I am, however, quite psyched for a little B-roll sequence with slow motion. And that will be enough. Now let's talk about the technical side of the shooting.
In a studio photoshoot, it's the opposite of natural light. You don't change your camera settings since it is the light that you manipulate. Usually, we take the lowest ISO for the best possible sharpness and the minimum grain. The speed depends on what we call the flashing speed, which we won't detail here, but which is generally around 1/200th of a second. And then you adjust the aperture according to the desired effect.
However, in our case, we will have to tweak the setting a bit each time since I keep changing the light configuration. I stay at ISO 400 with the fast enough speed to avoid any motion blur, at least above 1/100th of a second. And then I adjust the aperture, trying to stay as much as possible above f4 to avoid the too shallow depth of field of a wide aperture.
I tried to recreate one of the previous images, but it's a good example that portraits with closed eye are very complex to manage. You can go from a very poetic image to a very boring one, just because the expression wasn't there. And let's be honest, the light is also very flat. I tried to mix orange and red hues with a little blue backlight to draw the hair here, but it's not crazy. Here, on the other hand, we've got something really cool. I love this picture, the atmosphere that emerges from it. The opposition of tones, the light that hits the eyes and brings them out, the expression of the model. One of my favorite photos of the shooting. It just looked like such as a movie poster, right? Another very interesting image, the green-red-blue works, and definitely, Manoe Lion's mane looks superb and tight. Here too, this is a very good image, with the hair that frames the composition, the light position under the face. I find it just a little too strong and the facial features like the chin are no longer very well defined.
What I like about this light, or at least this model, is that you can do everything directly on the light. You can change modes, colors, etc. I don't like things that are only driven by apps. You always have connection problems. On the other hand, you don't have the advantages that it could have brought, like being able to drive it remotely. Or even better, being able to synchronize and set up several lights at the same time.
I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, I shoot mostly with the 28-75mm. What interests me here is the 70mm. If I had a prime focal length like a 85mm or even a 100, I would use them because it's personally the compression that I like on studio portraits. Compression is the deformation and flattening of the different planes of the image that you will have according to the focal length used. If you didn't understand what I just said, don't panic, I'll talk about it a little bit in this video with no borders and give some specific example. It will allow you to understand everything. But basically, if you get too much distortion, you will end up with faces like... We can try to play on close-ups like on these two images, for example. I like the way the hair closes the image at the edges. I have a bit of a problem with the depth of field. The nose is a bit blurry and I would have liked the whole image to be sharp on this kind of very fashion spirit image. Very fashion atmosphere again with Manoe's pouting, which is a standard among photo models, I guess. I like these pictures taken at 50mm.
I think we've got everything we need now. We've tested different color combination, different framing. For the end, I suggest that we try to get off what is usually made in that type of image and look for some effects to add to our last pics.
I try to create a slightly more graphic image by playing with just one tint and detaching the model from the background. Well, yeah, but it's red. No, I mean like really red. Yeah, okay, no. It's a bit better here with the Shrek version. The green stands well from the orange background. Let's say that is my favorite of the RGB triptych, the Smurf version. I like the framing and the expression, and the overall atmosphere is quite graphic. You know I like to play with the diffraction of light using glass, for example. Nice first image, even if the focus management becomes very difficult with the glass in front of my lens, I will have to adjust it manually. It's better here, we have a very graphic image, very colorful, very funny also. Yeah, why not? My favorite of this little series, a very dreamy feeling on the lightning, Manoe's very beautiful expression. Yeah, a lot of good things here.
Frankly, I'm really surprised by the quality of these lights and what you can get with it. Expect to see them at some point because I love to test them outdoors and see what kind of atmosphere we can try to create with them. It can be really fun.
Let's be very clear, these things are not at all made for studio lighting as we just did today. I totally diverted their main function. The little problem I noticed on our shooting is due to that. I will explain why and how to fix it. This is the diffuser which comes with the R1 and it magnetizes itself like that. Very well designed. And honestly, it's great. You put the light somewhere and it diffuses superbly.
The problem is, in a photo shoot like we did today, we're going to put the light pretty close to the subject, but the surface of the diffuser is small, so it's very directional. And so the colors have a hard time mixing, merging together. You can see that in some pictures. I would like to try to buy a small softbox and mount it on it. It will allow to diffuse the light on a larger surface, and I'm sure the result will be But when I see the quality that you can get already for a price not even comparable to flashes or continuous studio light, so yeah, no comparison, especially since I got them for free. That's true. Thanks Godox. But still, the RGB light, I think it's something that can be used by many photographers, many videographers too, mainly. So yeah, I encourage you to give it a try.
That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and activate the notification because it will put some colors in your heart. See you mate, keep on creating. Now we're going to do a little unboxing, so I'm gonna open the box. Wow! Now I'm going to open this box, and so there is the product. No twist, I guess.